Hello, Sober Army. How are you? It is early in the morning here in London, England. My name is Craig Beck, the author of Alcohol Lied to Me, a book that has helped hundreds of thousands of people to quit drinking. And if you've stumbled across my Happy Sober podcast, and especially at this time of year, you're thinking, right, got to deal with this alcohol problem, get on over to the website and get a free copy of my book, all right? Today, I have a really interesting email to share with you. This is a real dilemma that we need to sort out. It comes from Steve. I've heard this problem before, and it's a real tough one. So let's dive into it and see what Steve has to say. Hi, Craig. I started the program, and it's making me more and more determined to remain sober this time after stopping for relatively long periods of time on 2 previous occasions, 6 months and 8 months. Unfortunately, I find myself in an awkward situation with my girlfriend who wants me to drink in moderation, say once a month. I've had a few arguments with her about this already, and it's putting a lot of strain on our relationship. She doesn't seem to see things from my point of view and views my decision as a little bit selfish, not putting her needs first on the matter. I can't see how I can go along with her wishes on this one. Everything I try to explain to her, she shuts down and seems to believe that I should be able to drink on special occasions once a month. I've literally explained to her that it is not possible for all the reasons you mentioned during the first 6 days of your program, which I watched intently. I'm no stranger to stopping drinking, as I said, and I know that I'm not the type of person who can just drink on a special occasion or moderate my drinking. Really not sure what to do about this, but I may have to leave the relationship if the situation doesn't improve. It's sad, but that's how strongly she feels about being able to share a drink with me every once in a while. I'm surprised at her reaction, as she doesn't drink particularly heavily herself and certainly not frequently. Although I have to say the very nature of her strong reaction shows me that alcohol is also a problem for her due to how highly she values it as a part of our relationship. It is unsettling. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Regards, Steve. Wow. What a tough situation you're in, Steve. What do you think he should do? In the comments below, what should he do to deal with this difficult situation? Let me give you my take on it. Firstly, it's a situation I've encountered before, and there's some good news and some bad news here, Steve. The good news is you're nowhere near as trapped by this as a lot of people I speak to. One of the toughest coaching situations I encounter is when one member of a married couple comes to me and says, I want to quit drinking, but my husband or my wife doesn't want me to. I'm unhappy in the relationship. They're a problem drinker as well, but they won't accept it. And they want me to carry on drinking because they say I'm different, I'm boring when I don't drink. And so these people often are financially trapped in relationships that they're no longer happy in, and in, alcohol situations that are making them miserable, but they're trapped by the finances of it and they can't leave. And that's always a very difficult coaching situation because, as a coach, you're not really supposed to just tell people what to do. You're supposed to guide them to find the solution for themselves. But in your head, you're screaming, leave him or leave her. This is unacceptable. But you can't say that. So the good news is, Steve, you're in a tricky situation, but you're not completely trapped by it. You have options. And that's always a good place to be when you have options here. Let's talk about why she's doing this then. Why would someone who drinks infrequently and not heavily be so insistent that you carry on drinking? And there are a couple of options here. Firstly, she drinks more than you know. That would be my default go-to because some people are just very good at hiding their drinking. Some people never drink in public. You see them out at parties and they drink water, they drink Coca-Cola, they never drink. But behind the scenes, they're drinking bottles of whiskey and they have a real problem. So there is a chance here that alcohol is actually more prevalent in your girlfriend's life than you're aware of. That's one option, because it doesn't make any sense to get so upset about something that's on the edges of your life is a tertiary thing. It's not important. I mean, let's change the drug, as I always say you should do. If you want to know if this makes sense or not, change the drug. Let's take a relatively benign drug that doesn't have the huge drama around it of heroin or something like that. Let's talk about nicotine. If your girlfriend occasionally had a cigarette when she was socializing, maybe once a month, something like that, and you told her that you wanted to quit smoking, would you expect her to insist that you carry on? It would be weird, wouldn't it? You'd be like, but I don't, why? Why do you want me to carry on doing the thing that makes me miserable, that's going to give me cancer? It doesn't make sense unless we're not being told the true story. So that's option one, right? Option two is, you see, the problem is when alcohol is in your life and when you're using alcohol, you become a different person. And that works both ways for your partner, because if your partner fell in love with the sober version of you, the loving, caring, sensitive, attentive person that you are, and then you develop a drinking problem, they don't like the person you've become. But if they fell in love with the alcohol version of you, the brash, cheeky, a little bit inappropriate, a little bit outrageous version of you, if they fell in love with that person and you get sober, sometimes they don't like the real you. So it could be just that your girlfriend has fallen in love with a part of you that you don't want to live anymore, and you have to let it go. And there isn't really much you can do about that, because there is no choice, there is no option. You can't keep the part of you that you hate to please someone else. You might be able to do it for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, but you're not going to be able to sustain it. And so then you come to the problem of, well, if this relationship is not going to last, if this is not the one, then why am I wasting time in it? Because all the time I'm in this relationship that ultimately is going to fail, I'm preventing myself from meeting the person that I'm supposed to be with. And that's a very kind of harsh way of looking at it. And it depends what your goal is. If your goal is to just have non-committed, light relationships that don't really mean anything, then fine, stay in it. But if your goal, like most people, is to be in a long-term committed relationship with the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, then you're wasting your time. So what do you do? What do you do about that? Well, it depends how much you want to save the relationship, basically. It depends how important this relationship is to you. Let's assume it's really important. Let's assume that you love each other. It's amazing. It's wonderful. But there's this one problem. Use the sirens. It's London. It happens every 5 minutes. So let's assume this is a deeply loving relationship. Then you've got to find out, why. Why does she want you to carry on using the thing that makes you miserable? What's her motivation there? Because again, if we change the drug, imagine you're trying to give up heroin, and you've done it. You're 8 months clear of heroin, and your girlfriend comes up to you and says, "Can't you use heroin once a month? I'd really prefer it if you used heroin once a month, just for me. Will you do it for me?" I mean, you wouldn't be okay with that. You'd be furious, wouldn't you? You'd be like, "Do you know the hell I've been through with this in my life? And you say that to me? I mean, do you love me at all?" So there better be a very good reason why she's pushing you to do something self-destructive, because it sounds to me that, like anything she says, is trying to defend the indefensible. I don't see how she can defend it. Unless she says something like, when you've had a drink, you're good fun. You're funny, you make people laugh, and I'll miss that side of you. Which, yeah, okay, I get it, but it's kind of a selfish thing, isn't it? I like, it'd be like, I like who you are when you're on heroin. Can't you just keep taking the drug that's going to kill you to make me happy in the short term? It's a bit narcissistic, isn't it? It's a bit sociopathic. So what do you do here? If we assume that this is a deeply loving relationship and you want it to carry on, then you have a serious sit-down conversation with her. This is not a conversation you have as you cross in the hallway on the way to work. This is a sit down, I need to talk to you. And it's fine if she's a bit scared by that. You know, we need to talk later. Oh my God. It's fine because it's a big deal. And you want to have a sit down and you want to say, look, let me explain to you. Let me explain to you just how miserable alcohol makes me. Even in moderation, even in small amounts, it's not like I can have a drink and then spend the rest of the month free of the noise of alcohol. One drink will give me a month of misery till the next drink. I will torture myself for 1 month, forcing myself, white knuckling to stay away from this substance. One drink like you want me to have will give me a month of misery. And this will continue forever as long as you insist that I continue to drink in moderation. Do you understand just how devastating to me this is? Now, presumably she says, yes, I understand. And then you say, well, why, if you love me, would you want me to live in misery? Anything other than, okay, now you've explained it to me, I understand, I support you, I love you, what do you need me to do to help you? Anything other than that answer is a huge red flag, my friend. I don't know how you get over that, because this is about loving yourself. This is about standards. Okay. This is about having a line where you say, I'm worth more than that. I love myself. I value myself. I deserve good things in my life. I deserve to be loved and to love. And this is the line that you cannot cross. I have standards. And if you want to live below my standards, that's fine. That's your choice, but we can't do that together. We can't share a life. So you can choose to live where you are, or you can raise your standards to my level. Then maybe we can coexist. But if you're asking me to lower my standards to your level, then the answer is no. And if that means that's the end of the relationship, then let's go our separate ways and try and be amicable about it. Because you want one thing and I want the polar opposite. It's never going to work. So I can't tell you to end the relationship, Steve, because that would be inappropriate and it would be wrong. And that's a decision you have to make. If you love this woman with all your heart and you want it to carry on, then you got to try. You got to try and make her see your point of view. If she absolutely refuses, well, that's a different situation, isn't it? So, and I don't think I gave you too much help there, other than to say it's not really a choice at all. I mean, the email kind of says that, but I think you just want to hear it from someone else, that this isn't really a choice at all. Because if you make her happy, you make yourself miserable. And that's not a foundation for a relationship. And it's not something you can sustain, because at some point there will be a straw that breaks the camel's back. At some point there will be something else that makes you miserable, and something else. And at some point you'll just say, oh, forget this. I don't want this anymore. And the relationship will end. So what's the point of being in a relationship that's doomed? Maybe I'm not the expert on this. Comments below, please. What should Steve do? Really would value your input on this one. Thanks a lot. See you in the next episode of the Happy Sober Podcast.